So what I'm here to do today is to help you with establishing the file, making your case to your DEC, to the dean, to the P&T committee, and to the provost. I've been on the personnel policy for a lot of years. We've done numerous revisions of the P&T document. So that you're aware, Jane's nodding her head.
Yeah.
It is a living document, and we've edited some things, and I urge you to look at the P&T document. It's very easy to look at this guidebook and think, okay, this is all I need to put my file together. But I urge you to go through it because it will add some things that the Senate feels is a priority that may not appear either here or in any of the P&T committee's guidelines. So take a look at that, and when you read the P&T document, read the things that other people are responsible for. Don't just read as candidate section, because it's important for you to know what to expect of your department and your dean, especially when it comes to writing letters. And I think we are much better off now than we were 5 or 10 years ago. But there were some departments and schools that had a tendency to write kind of a standard letter and change some things very minorly throughout either a candidate's evolution through renewal to tenure. So it's your career. Read those things. Know what they're expected to write. And there is a closing statement that they are required to write at the end of the letter regarding very strongly recommend, strongly recommend. So make sure that is on your letter, because if it's not, and they say, I feel very strongly that Susan Cusato should be promoted, that's not the wording they want. They want that consistency. So you do have an obligation to go through and be responsible for what other people are doing for you and hold them accountable. So this little bit of notes here is just to keep in mind that the file represents you. A lot of people won't know who you are, especially on the P&T committee. Hopefully your department and your dean know exactly who you are and what you do. But really, when it comes down to it, they're not able to evaluate something if it's not in the file. So even though you've worked closely with the dean on a project and you forget to include it in your file, she shouldn't really comment about it. Your file is your representation. So be careful what you do. Make mental lists along the way to make sure that you don't forget something that you want to include. Do not assume that the deans, P&T committee members, and provosts understand your disciplines and the nuances of your department and how it works. To remedy that, the Senate came up last year with, or at least in steps to remedy that, the development of departmental P&T guidelines, which we hope would bring some idea of what the department expectations and what they value. But again, it's important that you make your own case in the file and why you chose to do this activity as your creative activity, or this is why this was an important curricular revision to do for your department. It's your case, and it's really important when it comes to certain terminology and references that you elaborate where you feel necessary. I recommend giving it to somebody who knows nothing about what you do to look at, a family member or something, and have them go through it. And if they say, I have no clue what you're talking about here, then chances are maybe somebody along the line will feel the same way. So take the time to do it right and make sure that you're clear what you're communicating. I think Linda said that they changed in the handbook now, and we are clear in the P&T document of Senate. The letter that you were hired for, the letter of appointment, must be included in the file, in the primary file. So make sure that you have that. If you don't, you can get it from your personnel file from the Human Resources Office. Also, go through, check your personnel file is open to the P&T committee members. Just make sure it's good to look at it. If you haven't looked at it in a number of years, go see what's in it. See if anything's changed since the last time you went up for review.
Does it need to be the original, or can it be a copy?
Copy of the original.
Yeah.
Signed by, you're talking about the
Letter
of appointment.
Yes.
Yeah, it needs to be a copy of the original signed by the president with a stamp on it, and not a copy you have lying around.
Please also keep in mind the weighting of the categories. And Tony did a great job there. Obviously, teaching is our primary credit load, what we're here to do. That gets the most points. But there's been some concern that people are focusing a lot on Category 2, but Category 3 is only 1 point different. And it's your job when you're trying to decide which categories to put it in, to think about that point ratio too. I mean, if you've done something that's really wonderful, it will serve you better in category 1 than it will in professional, in the 4th category. So you really want to make good decisions about where you're going to be putting your materials. Organize. Some of us are better organized than others, I'll admit, but it helps to be clear and communicate. Please have a table of contents, or at least within each discipline, some way where we know where to look for things. It's very difficult when you have supplemental files. It takes you 20 minutes to find what somebody's referring to. So you can either be specific in each category, or what I've seen on each kind of divider in the notebook is kind of a highlight of the order of materials, so that if you're looking for something, you know where to find it. Ask questions of those people that have been through the process, especially in your department. This isn't something that's hands off. Find out what worked, what didn't work. If you've been in conversations with your DEC, hopefully through the renewal process, they've been giving you feedback on what you've done, which is exemplary, and where you can work to improve. So ask the people in your department, what do I need to bring in here? How did it work for you? I know many of us deal with things like accreditation and think, how did you include that in your report? How did you do writing graduate program reviews? How did you deal with that in your file? So find out what other people did that were successful, because if they were successful, it will help you. Include things that make you stand out. If you've done some things that in your teaching or on campus or related to your professional organizations, include them. It's not the time to be shy. If you received a glowing letter from a colleague at another university, put it in there. This is the time to build your ego a little bit and include those letters that students have sent you, that very often we get them and we just think of it as a matter-of-factly routine that we have a letter and that's nice and we thank the student, but those things make you stand out. And so collect them, as Linda said, keep them in a drawer, and when the file is ready, put it in. Rebuttal letters, do's and don'ts. I'm saying this because it's come up in personnel policy frequently in the last few years about the way that rebuttal letters are meant to go. And so to save any grievances and things, I thought I would try to get involved with that now. Each candidate has a 4-day window after you receive your file back from your DEC and the dean to write a rebuttal letter. It does not go to the person who evaluated you. There have been some mistakes in recent years where it went back to the chair, and then the chair wrote a rebuttal to the rebuttal letter, and they get included. It's not a dialogue. The letter is supposed to go in at the point that the file goes to the next stage. So to not go back to the DEC, the chairperson, or to the dean. They don't see the letter. Okay, so we're clear on that. Otherwise, people get concerned also. Well, I'm afraid if I put a rebuttal letter in, the chair is going to get angry at me for what they said. But if you feel strongly that you need to respond to something that was written, I urge you to do it. You're right, but it goes in just before the next stage. That's why you have 4 days. For tenure, I put this in because we talked about it a lot in personnel policy, and I think Tony highlighted some of the differences between tenure and promotion. And tenure is really to keep you here. You're making your case why you are critical to the university and your teaching and your department. And so we don't require classroom observation feedback in the file, but we strongly urge it because, especially for tenure, it's nice to know that the primary credit load, somebody else can vouch for it. So each department has their own policy and practice of the way of doing things, but it is something that if your department does, and if they don't do it, maybe you could encourage somebody to come and visit your class beforehand. Another thing, if you are going up early,